Clara had always wanted the upper hand in arguments, a sense of finality that would leave her feeling victorious. That night, in the heat of a tense confrontation, she spoke without thinking. "You argue too much for a man. No wonder you're so lacking in that way." The moment the words left her mouth, the air between them shifted. The tension didn't erupt into yelling. It collapsed into a suffocating silence that pressed down on the room. Ethan didn't respond with anger, nor did he offer a retort. He simply froze, jaw tight, fists curling almost imperceptibly, eyes clouded with something far heavier than fury. Humiliation, raw and vulnerable. Without a word, he turned and walked away. Clara expected him to follow the pattern they always had, shouting, arguing, eventually reconciling, but he didn't. That silence, that absolute stillness, was far more devastating than any fight they had ever had. In the past, their quarrels had always found resolution, a rhythm of push and pull that brought them back together. But this time was different. That night, Ethan didn't return to their bed. At first, Clara convinced herself he merely needed space, that he would slip in later while she slept, and that morning would bring everything back to normal. But when she reached for him the next day, his side remained untouched. A quiet dread settled into her chest. This wasn't his usual behavior. Even after the most heated arguments, he had always been there physically, if nothing else. She got up and searched the house, half expecting to find him in the kitchen, sipping coffee, or on the couch, scrolling through his phone. Instead, she found him in the guest room, sitting on the edge of bed, completely withdrawn. He wasn't sulking or glaring. He was just empty. Clara lingered in the doorway, waiting for him to speak, but he remained silent. Finally, she tried. "Ethan, what's wrong? Why are you here?" No answer. She pressed further, asking if he was still upset, if he planned to return to their bed. His gaze barely lifted, and when he finally spoke, it wasn't in anger or plea. It was a quiet, weighty silence that spoke louder than any words could. Days passed with no change. Clara told herself he needed time, that eventually life would return to normal. But it didn't. Ethan withdrew completely. Enter a room and he left. Attempt conversation and he barely responded. Reach out to touch him and he flinched. This wasn't just anger. It was something far deeper, a permanent distance. It was as if he had erased her from his life without saying a word. In a desperate attempt to repair what had broken, Clara tried everything she knew. She cooked his favorite meals, left thoughtful notes, made small gestures meant to speak louder than words. Nothing penetrated his walls. She realized, with chilling clarity, that this was different from any argument they had endured before. The silence between them was heavier than any shouting match could have been. It was a void, a wound that refused to heal. Clara had never understood the depth of Ethan's insecurities. In his youth, he had faced ridicule over his appearance, whispers and mockery that left scars he never shared. A high school rumor, a careless comment, haunted him through adulthood, leaving him wary of intimacy, careful to hide vulnerability. A past heartbreak, a girlfriend who left him for another man, telling him plainly, "You're just not enough," had cemented his guardedness. He rebuilt himself carefully, piece by piece, until he met Clara. With her, he felt safe, valued, whole. But one sentence, uttered in anger, unraveled years of trust and security. "You argue too much for a man. No wonder you're so lacking in that way." For the first time, he doubted whether he could ever see Clara the same way again. Time did not heal the rift. One evening, determined to bridge the gap, Clara went to the guest room expecting to find him distracted on his phone. Instead, the room was empty, save for the hum of the shower in the background. His phone glowed on the bed with a new email subject line. Questions about divorce proceedings. Panic surged in her chest. No, this had to be a mistake. But deep down, she knew it wasn't. This wasn't about one harsh remark. It was about everything they'd ignored, every unresolved conflict, every subtle fracture in their marriage. Ethan was preparing to leave. When he finally emerged from the bathroom, she asked, voice trembling, "Are you really thinking about divorce over one argument?" He looked at her, calm, unnervingly so. "You think this is just about that night?" he said quietly. And she understood. It wasn't just the words. It was all the unspoken distance, the lingering resentments, the slow accumulation of pain they had failed to address. In a last effort, Clara poured herself into saving their marriage. She apologized repeatedly, not just with words, but through actions, cooked his favorite dishes, left notes, attempted conversations about anything and everything, the weather, shared memories, fleeting moments, but his responses remained short, hollow, almost absent. The most terrifying part was clear. He had already answered questions she hadn't dared to ask. One evening, passing the guest room, she froze. Ethan was packing, clothes neatly folded, a suitcase open on the bed, heart racing. She stepped into the room. "Are you really leaving?" Her voice quivered. He inhaled slowly, hands gripping the suitcase. When he finally met her eyes, his words were steady, heavy with truth. "I don't know if I can get past this." The weight of that calm certainty struck her harder than any argument could have. She had expected anger, confrontation, resentment unleashed. Instead, there was quiet. She whispered, tears blurring her vision. "I love you. I messed up. I wish I could take it back, but I can't. Just tell me what to do." A flicker passed over his face. Hesitation. Conflict. A shadow of something beyond emptiness. After a long pause, he said, "You can't unsay what you said, and I can't unhear it." Her heart sank, but then he added, "But maybe I'm not ready to walk away. Not yet." It wasn't forgiveness, nor a promise to stay. It was the thinnest thread of hope. And for now, that was all Clara had to hold on to. He didn't leave that night, but the fracture remained. Their path to healing would be long, and some wounds would take time to mend. The question that lingered above everything was whether love alone could endure what had been broken.